In this video, we're going to cover how to use the permanent base station localization wizard in Sitemetrics Grade. If you're unsure about what type of localization wizard you should use, look in the video description for a separate video that covers this in further detail. To fully automate this wizard, we need to make sure a few things are enabled in the Bluetooth menu. From the main screen, select the plug or Bluetooth icon. For each HT20 tablet, you are allowed one rover and one base to automatically connect to Sitemetrics. I will select the box for Auto Connect as rover and Auto Connect for base. If your receivers are not already labeled as base and rover, I would suggest you do that now to make setup easier in the future. Now that we have the Bluetooth menu set up to Auto Connect, we can move on to the wizard. The wizard can be found under the second page of the menu. The first question will ask if you want to set up a base, and since we are, I'm going to tell it yes. And since we want this to be a permanent location, I will pick the permanent base option. Sitemetrics is now asking me to name the base. This name will be given to a point with the current position of the base station and saved to the localization later. After selecting Next, Sitemetrics will automatically connect to the base and store the current position of the base to the receiver's internal memory. Now we set the appropriate radio settings for the base station. These will be configured based on your region's requirements. Contact your local hemisphere dealer if assistance is needed with these requirements. I'll select Next to continue. Sitemetrics will now disconnect from the base and connect to the rover automatically, and set all of the appropriate radio settings to match the base. For this to work properly, the frequency and channel spacing will need to match the same corresponding channel on both the base and rover receivers. We are now at the main localization screen. You can see we already have a fixed position and ready to start measuring points. The list icon, shown here, is used to add, edit, and/or import control points from a CSV file. To do this, you would insert a USB thumb drive containing the CSV file of the points into the HT20 and select the D drive, and then select your point file and open and OK. You will now pick the first control point that you would like to measure. Notice at the top of the screen, it will always show you the point name that you are currently measuring. Once you level up over the point, select the Measure button. Sitemetrics will prompt you to double check your rod height. If it is correct, select yes or no to change it. Now that we've measured our first point, we can see ourselves on the main screen represented as a crosshair right over the top of the point we just measured. Sitemetrics will now automatically choose the next closest control point for me to measure. If for some reason you can't measure that point or want to select a different point, you can do this by selecting it in the map view or picking it from the list again. Once you have the next point selected and the rover leveled up over that point, select Measure. Sitemetrics will again pick the next closest point for me. If you ever have trouble locating a control point, you can always enable the Navigate button shown here. This will help you find the control point by giving you a distance and direction to start heading in. Once you locate the point, use the Back button shown here to get back into the measurement page and level up over the point and measure it. I will now navigate to my final point and measure it. You will continue doing this for however many control points your particular job might have. Before you finish the localization, you will want to make sure that none of your points have a residual bust of over 0.1 feet or 3 centimeters. This is easily identified by any of your measured control points having a red color. If you see this, go into the list view and look for the largest HRES or VRES shown here. If any of these residuals are over 1/10 of a foot or 3 centimeters, edit the point so that it does not use that vertical or horizontal attribute. In my instance, the horizontal is busted, so I'll tell it to use vertical only. Once all your residuals are under that 1/10 of a foot threshold and no red points can be seen, you can finish the localization. I'll go back into the localization so you can see that Sitemetrics added the base point with the name I gave it to the localization. Remember to label your base and rover at this point. When you come back to set up the base tomorrow or on a different day, all you'll have to do is spin the base back onto the permanent location and press the power button and walk away. The base will set itself up and start broadcasting corrections automatically.